Hello everyone, and as you can tell by the title of this video, it's time for another book haul. Given that I was planning to get rid of a lot of the books I own, I've tried really hard so far this year to restrict what I buy. So a lot of the books in this video and a lot of the books that I have bought this year have been ebook forms. And the books I'm going to show you in this video aren't even all of them, because when I initially made my list of the ones that I'd bought so far this year, I didn't think it was that much because there aren't that many physical ones taking up a lot of space. But it turns out I was wrong. The first one that I'm going to talk about was sent to me by the publisher, and that is All the Good Things by Claire Fisher. This book follows a 21-year-old woman called Beth who is in prison for a crime she won't talk about. She refers to it throughout the book as the bad thing, and she has weekly sessions with her therapist Erica, who gives her a pen and a notebook and tells her to write down all the good things, hence the title. I have already read this and I do have a review coming soon. It's either already up at this point or it will be coming because I have already filmed it, but this book was so good. I didn't expect that much from it, but it completely blew me away, and I will talk about more of the reasons why in my review that's coming up at some point. But this is already on track to be one of my favourite books of the year. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Jumping back in time a little bit to the first book that I bought this year, and that was Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. I can't go into too much detail about this because this is the sequel, but this is a high fantasy novel following 2 girls, one called Safi, who is a truth witch, which means she has the ability to tell what is the truth and what is a lie, and her best friend Iseult. I never know if I'm saying that right, and the author did actually do a video of how to pronounce things in this book, but I believe it's Iseult. But anyway, Iseult is a thread witch, which means she can see all of the threads around different people, and through those threads she can see what each individual is feeling, but she can't see her own. And that's basically as much as I can give away. And you know, they go on adventures and they're trying to escape this big war that's happening because they don't want to be involved in that. And yeah, I absolutely love this series. It's so good. It is really difficult at times, so it's the kind of book where you have to sit down and dedicate time to it. You can't just read it in little 10-minute stints, otherwise you will just be so confused. The next book was another one that was sent to me by the publisher, and that is See You in the Cosmos by Jack Cheng. This is about a boy called Alex who has been recording little snippets of his life onto this iPod that he plans to put in a rocket that he's going to attempt to launch into space at this competition. And he basically is hoping that whatever life possibly exists beyond planet Earth will get hold of this iPod and have an insight into who he was and what his life was like on planet Earth. It was a really nice, more light-hearted read than the things that I normally do pick up, and it gave me really kind of John Green, Perks of Being a Wallflower type themes. The next book I'm going to talk about was also sent to me by the publisher. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get all of the ones that are sent by the publishers out of the way first. But this one is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertelli. I read Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which was her debut. I read that in 2015 and I loved it. It was on my list of my favourite books for that year. So I was really excited when I heard she was going to have a new book coming out. And this one did not disappoint. I have a full review already up on my channel, which I will link down below, where I talk about more of my thoughts about this. But the premise of the plot is it's about a girl called Molly who is a bigger girl, and for that reason she doesn't feel like she will ever get a boyfriend, and she believes that she's just going to have to settle for the 26 crushes on her list of unrequited love. The representation in this book is fantastic. You have bisexual, pansexual, Jewish, fat rep, and anxiety representation in this book, and it's so well done. It's so integrated in a way that it doesn't feel like it's just an attempt to tick as many boxes as possible. The next one I'm going to talk about was also sent to me by the publisher, and that is doing it, let's talk about Sex by Hannah Witten. I am always incredibly skeptical when books by YouTubers come out, but when Hannah announced that she was writing this book and it was about sex and relationships, I felt that was very fitting of what she talks about anyway on her channel. But the great thing about it is that even though Hannah is incredibly knowledgeable, she knows the appropriate moment to step back and let others speak. So throughout this book, she has contributors talking about things that are relevant to them. So she has a bisexual contributor talking about what it's like to navigate the dating world as a bisexual. She has trans contributors, deaf contributors, and people who are in polyamorous relationships, and gives them the kind of platform to talk about their own experiences in a actual sense rather than just a theoretical sense. And I feel that that's what really made this book good, is that you have those different insights into different parts of sex and relationships. This is one that I literally forgot about completely, and I only just discovered when I was taking the books off my shelf to use for this video, but this is one that I found in a charity shop, and that is Sofia Khan Is Not Obliged by Aisha Malik. I really hope that I've said that right, and I'm not entirely sure what this is about. I think that she is a journalist and she has to write a kind of expose on the Muslim dating scene, so it's a little bit more diverse, and I just happened across this in a charity shop, so I just thought, why not? The next book that I'm going to talk about is one that you've probably most definitely heard about if you read a lot of YA, and that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and follows a girl called Star who witnesses a police officer shoot and kill her best friend, and it's basically the fallout from that, the investigation and the whole media frenzy that follows. And this book made me so frustrated but then terrified at the same time. Frustrated because I could not believe that this was happening, and then terrified because this is not just fiction. This is something that is actually happening and happens so often in the world at the moment that it just freaked me out. And even though, as you can tell, I am a white woman, I was reading aspects of this book and I was physically holding my breath and not moving whenever police officers showed up. And I don't know why I did that, because it was not going to affect the outcome of the story in any way, but I would literally be there holding my Kindle just like afraid of what might happen if I did move. So I feel that it got that aspect there for people like myself who don't experience that. This is my second to last ebook in this video, I promise you, and that is Noah Can't Even by Simon James Green. This is a book I just completely happened across, and that's because I watch a girl called Amber over at the Mile Long Bookshelf, and she did a review with this author talking about this book, and what really sold me on it is the fact that it is a British LGBT novel. And it wasn't until watching this interview that she did with the author that I realised how many LGBT books are set in America. So that's the main crux of what inspired me to pick up this book, because I am also planning to write an LGBT book later this year for NaNoWriMo that is a British novel as well, so I figured I need to sort of start reading more contemporary to get an idea for tone and things like that. But anyway, I've gone completely off the plot. I do have a review coming about this that's also part discussion, which I'm kind of nervous to do but should be interesting. The story follows a boy called Noah who is 16 and is basically the bottom of the school food chain, and he just wants to be your typical normal 16-year-old boy and just have a girlfriend, and he decides to go to this party in the hopes of kissing this really beautiful girl called Sophie, and then everything will be fine, he will be normal, he will finally be accepted in society. But he ends up kissing his best friend Harry at this party, and his whole questions of sexual identity go on from there. The next book that I'm going to talk about is from a dear friend of mine, and that is Golden by k.m. Robinson. This is her debut, and she was kind enough to send me this all the way from America. She sent me a whole box of wonderful goodies, which I did an unboxing of, and I will link to that down below. But the premise of this book is you have the government and you have the society, who are both trying to basically fight for control, and the Bear family are kind of the neutral bit in the middle that have all of the secrets to basically taking control of everything. And so Illyria, who is the protagonist in this story, is sent to infiltrate the family and find out all this information, but to do that she has to make one of the boys fall in love with her. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a non-fiction, and that is The Gender Games by Juno Dawson, and I'm going to be meeting her at a signing for this book on June the 15th, so there will be a little event vlog coming. Depending on when this ends up being posted, I may have already met her, who knows. For those who don't know, Juno Dawson is a young adult author, and she announced her transition last year. She came out as trans, and she's rather publicly gone through her transition, and so she decided to write a book about it. So I think that this will be really interesting to read, as I love being educated on these kind of things and learning more that's physically possible to learn. And can we talk about how great this cover is though? Like, I am actually in love with this. The next book I'm going to talk about is literally one that made me scream in the middle of a bookshop, and that is I Did Die For You and Other Lost Stories by S. Scott Fitzgerald. Anyone who knows me will know that The Great Gatsby is one of my all-time favourite books, and I've been attempting rather badly to read the rest of S. Scott Fitzgerald's books, and it was announced a few months ago that there had been some lost stories uncovered, which were basically, he never published them for a variety of different reasons, and a publisher in America decided to compile them into this book and release them to the public, but the rights in the UK hadn't been bought. Nobody seemed to want it. So when I walked into a bookshop and went to the hardback new releases section to see what was there, and I saw this, kind of lost my inability to do anything for a moment, and then I instantly bought it. So this is one of the only ones on this list that were a complete and utter impulse buy. And the last one that I'm going to talk about, again, is the finally book, I promise, and this is the one that I am currently reading, and that is Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. I am currently 5% into this one. 5%? Yes, I am 5% into this one at the minute. I'm sure I don't need to go into too much detail about this, but it is the sequel anyway. It is the second book in the Dark Artificer series, and it follows a group of people called Shadow Hunters, who are basically half angel, half human beings, whose job is just to fight demons. And I adore Cassandra Clare's books, and I love the Mortal Instruments for so many reasons. I did a whole video on that, which again I will link down below, as to why that series is so important to me. And I didn't think, out of her other series that I'd read, that I would enjoy the Dark Artificers as much, but it's definitely one of the best series that she's done. One thing that I really love about writers is when you can tell that they're improving, when they are international bestsellers like Cassandra Clare, when you can physically see the way that her writing style has improved across her books, that's when you know that it's a good author. But yeah, that's all of the books that I kind of shortlisted to show you today. And yeah, what are you currently reading at the moment? Let me know. What are some of the things that you've bought recently that you are most excited about reading? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be back with a new video soon. Bye!